Welcome back, true believers. And yes, you did hear me right. I said true believers. I'm borrowing the Marvel moniker today because we have an impressions video of the Marvel Legends Angel figure. Now, I know this figure was released in early to mid 2024. I had the figure sitting here for a while. I actually ordered two of them at a time, one to keep boxed and closed and one to have open. And to be honest with you, I put the boxed one on the shelf that I was going to keep in the box immediately, and the one to open I didn't never touch until very recently. This was actually came out in 2024. We're in the early part of 2025 now in January, and I just now have gotten around to open this figure. So we're going to do impressions of it, and I will tell you that I think this will be a very interesting one to do. So let's just jump right into it, dive right in and get to it, and we'll check out first impressions. Alright, true believers, we are back once again with another impression, this time of a Marvel Legends figure. We chose to do Marvel's Angel this week. Now, I know this figure has been out for a very long time. I have had him the entire time. I glanced at it very briefly when it first came in, and then set it to the side because I just honestly haven't had the opportunity and time to open it yet. So, I know this one's a little late and this has been out, and you're wondering, how are you going to do first impressions? Well, it's simply because I really haven't invested any time into this figure yet because I hadn't had the opportunity. But now that I do, let's check him out. First of all, sculpt and color, fantastic. I got a feeling that once this one is out and on my shelf, I am going to be even more enamored with it than I am already. Just point out a couple of different hand options, and then we do have the two different faces. We've got the X-Men style face as well as what appears to be what he wore as a Defender's costume, which then again, it just kind of depended on who was drawing it too in the comics, because he could have been in either one of those headgears in any book. Really good job on the paint apps and the sculpt on it from what I can see in the box. The box itself, your standard oversized Marvel Deluxe box, which is I'm not really sure if I like it or not, because it's cool looking. It displays very well, but it's also very awkward, especially if you don't have a lot of shelf space and it takes up weird amount of room on your shelf. And if you ever have to wrap one of these as a Christmas gift, it is horrible to do. But after checking out Angel here, let's check out the side of the box. Wonderful artwork from the comics. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to look up to see which artist that was, but great artwork there on the side. The back with a little bit of a Marvel Legends explanation of who Angel is. Another shot from the comics. I think it's not quite the same one from the side, but similar in the same red outfit. I'm sure we will get a blue outfit version of this sometime soon. On this side, same thing as on the others. It's that same artwork, but overall, really, really good figure. And when I tell you it's been here for a while, you can tell because the amount of dust sitting on top of it. Just to tell on myself a little bit, I think this is probably, I'm recording this at the end of 2024. It'll probably post sometime early in January or even middle of January. But regardless of that, this is probably, I would say probably one of my top 2 to 3 Marvel Legends of 2024 that I received in 2024. I'm going to open it almost in 2025, so you know how that works. But I think it's going to be probably one of the top ones that we had to come out this year from Marvel Legends. So let's crack this bad boy open. Let's get him on a shelf, and then we will come back with some lasting impressions and final thoughts. Alright guys, we are back here now checking out lasting impressions on this Angel figure. So first of all, let me open with this. This is not the final spot for him, nor is this the final pose. I honestly just needed somewhere to put him at the time, and normally when I get these out, I get them put on a flight stand pretty well right away and posed, and unfortunately I'm completely out of flight stands and didn't realize that until after the fact of opening. And then I was out of the house for like 2 days and didn't get a chance to order another one. So he's been here for about 48 hours at this point, and I don't have my final stuff to put him on a flight stand. But I will say this, and yes, that is a box one behind him because I like to keep the box one, especially for these figures. And yes, both Archangel and Angel are back there, and Iceman and some other X-Men hanging out over here with him. But focusing on Angel strictly, gotta be honest, every time I walk by this figure, the color just draws me to him, and the articulation is fantastic. I thought it might be in the box, but it's hard to tell until you get him out. When you get him out, man, he is just the play factor on this figure. So every time I walk by, I just want to pick him up and mess with him. I'm sure that you guys have seen other reviews out there, had a chance to check out others, and they go over all the articulation, but these wings are amazing. Now, they are very back heavy when you don't have a flight stand, which is why he's in this A stance pose, whereas I usually do much more dynamic stances. That's really just because of the wings and because I need a flight stand. Once I have that, I'll be putting him on there and posing him out fully and having the wings in some kind of flapping position of some sort. I haven't really decided exactly what yet, but I also don't have a stand, and got to have a pretty sturdy one because he's got some weight to him. However, I will say that the articulation just sells this figure so much once you have him out of the box. In the box, you get to see how nice he looks, but you don't get to really appreciate him until you pull him out. The fact that he has all the normal joints of a Marvel Legend, all the pinless, double jointed knees and elbows and everything, that's kind of common. But those wings, man, the stuff you can do with them, how you can flay them out, how you can flip them up and around, how you can have them flapping and posted really high up. This thing just sells itself once you have it open. In the box, it looks like it's going to be there, and you look like, okay, I think I'm going to like this. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm close to it. But once you crack him open, man, you will never want another version of an Angel figure, at least in my estimation. So with that being said, I'm going to wind up the lasting impressions here with just how great this figure is. And I will say he might not be my #1 Marvel Legend of 2024, but he's definitely a close #2. And that's only because of accessories that #1 beats him out, with that being the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider they did, which I'm not going to have a chance to do a first impressions on. I opened him up immediately when he got here versus several of my other figures, including this Angel who sat for a while. But man, just the stuff that he can do and that you can pose him out and do with him, it's amazing. So in the box, first impressions, really good. Out of the box, lasting impressions, even better. This is why we do the impression videos, because sometimes you get that extra oomph, that extra mile once you get them out. Sometimes you don't, and we have to call that out when we don't. But this is a case of we absolutely did. All right, true believers and fans alike, we are back here for final thoughts on the Marvel Legends Angel figure. As I talked about in both the first impressions, I thought it was going to be a great figure, and then when we got to lasting impressions, we found out it really was. One of the things that we usually do when we're trying to do these impression videos, or for anybody who's collecting out there, one of the things you do is you look at it in the box and you say, oh, how do I think this is going to be? If it's a favorite character, even if it's badly done, sometimes you'll still accept it and say, okay, it's still okay because this is one I like. And sometimes you open it and you get this impression that, hey, this is just like it always is. Honestly, I've been doing a lot of G.I. Joe classified series ones lately, and you guys have seen that, and I always say, hey, it's classified as pretty much about what you expect it is what it is, and you get something nice, and I expect that from it though. But when I opened this, I was like, okay, Marvel Legends usually is pretty good, but every now and then you get a mixed bag of something bad. But in this case, this was one that once the figure was open, it became so much better. And it's hard to realize that from the first impression you get in the box. Even if you think it's going to be great, you don't know how good until you get out of the box. So one of the things, I don't usually bring these to the desk because I even posed out where they are, but like I told you with Angel, he's not where he's finally going. His final resting place on the shelf, I shouldn't call it his final resting place, but his final position on the shelf is not secured yet. Flight stand is not in place, but I wanted to bring him out here for this part just to talk about some of the things I mentioned as the articulation. And now granted, some of this posing, this can be done with any Marvel Legends figure just about nowadays. But one of the things that was really cool, and I just thought we had to call out, was look at the span on these wings. Look at how you can pose and put them in different positions, and you can, lower them down, raise them, fly them out, flare them out if you want to have them in a flight position. And then this disc joint at the neck that allows him to look up. Not a lot of figures get this ability to really just look up that well and look up that high. So if you got a flying figure, you want him to be able to look up that high. So if he's flying, he's looking ahead. Now you also have the option that if he was, say he was coming down to land in front of you and wanted to look at you on the ground, oh, this is even better articulation going downwards, which we hardly ever get. So the fact that you can put this figure into so many poses, because not only can you flare the wings out, but you have the ability to up, down, flapping poses, however you want him to be to flying. Now, I will say that the wings you have to be careful of, because when you put them on a stand, and I'm getting all out of camera focus here, I apologize, but when you put them on a stand, this is just like gargoyles. He takes up a ton of room. But if he's on a flight stand, no biggie. So if I was to put this figure on a flight stand and have him up there, up high enough his wings weren't in the way, I'm taking up the vertical space and then widening out from the vertical space, but I can put people standing around below him, which is great. And that's one of the things that really, really, really stood out and made this figure for me. Now, I think it's easy, very, very easy to say, and excuse me here, I'm trying to get in where I can stand him back up on the desk here for a moment. just to get him out of our way a little bit here. Let me put him down so I can talk to you guys properly. But one of the things I talk about when we do the impressions is how they are afterwards and how I thought, compared to what they were in the box. As I said in the video, not always, but in some cases you get a item, in some cases you get something really fantastic, and you don't know that until you open it. This was a case of once it's open, as good as I thought it was, once it's open, it's even better. So if you ask me my final thoughts, this is an absolute, probably the strongest recommend that I have had so far in doing these impressions, and definitely one of the strongest Marvel Legends recommends this year. I think I would put him at a close number 2, with number 1 being the Ghost Rider Danny Ketch with the bite, like I mentioned in the lasting impressions. That was already done, so I didn't get a chance to do an impression video of that because I was so excited to get it. And then the other being one that I had opened up months ago as well, being the Scarlet Spider. He's probably number 3 just because of the character more than anything else. It's pretty much your common Spider-Man at this point, but I like Scarlet Spider. But this Angel was just a fantastic and amazing figure, and I would have to say, like I said, he's one of the strongest recommends I've put out there yet. So I do appreciate you coming and checking this out, and hopefully that helps influence you, whether you're on the fence about one or if you have one or haven't gotten one. Oh, and I guess before I log out of here, we should share just one thing. I know I talked about how great he is, and there are some things we don't talk about too much, but on the arm cuff, I think I was so excited with this figure I didn't point out the bad. This arm cuff right here where it's painted white up the arm, that actually has a good bit of red bleed through in it from the red paint that's on the rest of the arm. It's like they painted the red and painted the white on top of it. So I will call that out as a bad point, but that bad point is so minor and so nitpicky, and you don't see it from afar. So unless you get right up on top of this figure and are looking specifically at that, you don't notice it. I don't think that detracts enough to even take 1 point away from him in the grand scheme of how highly do you recommend him. So with that being said, we're going to get out of here, true believers, and let you go enjoy your collection. And if you have a need to find one of these, you can find them anywhere where you find action figures. They're currently still around. But don't forget to go check out any of our other content. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. And go check out some of our other co-hosts on their channels as well. You can find Big Rob on his Big Rob's House of Entertainment and No Chinese Food. Or you can find Chris Daly on his podcast, Fueled by Weird, wherever you find your podcast. And you can find myself and Hassel on the Nerdy Man Room Show channel on the Nerdy Man Room Show, and Hassel also on Hassel's Review. Thanks, and looking forward to the next one.